Soaring Without Limits Enterprises presents the Triple E Podcast, a show dedicated to empowering women to elevate, expand, and explore their mindsets. I am your host, Monique Pearson, best-selling author, mindset coach, international speaker, and travelologist. Are you ready to transform your life? Join us monthly for inspiring stories and actionable tips so that you can soar without limits. Well, hello, good evening. Welcome back to the Triple E Podcast. For those who are not familiar with me, I am Monique Pearson, and I am your host. And the premise of the Triple E Podcast is to help women to elevate, expand, and explore their mindsets, mentally, physically, spiritually, as well as financially. And we are sure to bring on guests who will be able to assist you in doing just that. And as you all know, we always bring the heat when we come before you, and we are definitely going to have some gems to leave before you, because I'm super excited to have our guest that is with us today. And I'm going to read her bio, and you are going to see just why I speak so highly of her. And then we're going to bring her up. So, Rev. Dr. Xenia Barnes, PhD, is a trauma-informed behavioral scientist, a leadership and resilience strategist. Dr. Reverend Barnes doesn't just study trauma, she's lived it. After more than 25 years in the New York City school system, her life was forever changed in 2017 when her nephew was murdered, a loss she described as the moment grief took over her mind. In 2021, that grief showed up in a new and devastating way when she was diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis, when, as she says, grief took over her body. But instead of breaking her, those moments became her turning point. Today, Dr. Barnes is a speaker, a behavioral scientist, and the author who helps leaders and organizations understand how trauma silently impacts performance, decision-making, and workplace culture, and how to rebuild from it. Through her work, she bridges lived experience with behavioral science, equipping people with the tools to move from survival mode to resilience, clarity, and leadership. She is the author of Loving Yourself Through the Trauma Workbook and the Recondition. Her message is simple but powerful. When you address trauma, you don't just heal. You transform how you live as well as how you lead. So without further ado, let us bring up to the Triple E platform and make sure y'all show her a warm welcome, Dr. Xenia, Rev. Dr. Xenia Barnes. Hey, Dr. Xenia, how are you doing this evening?
Hey, how are you? I'm so happy to be here and sharing this space with you. It's always wonderful to see your face and just be in mixed company.
Yes, ma'am. So happy to be back before you again. Yes, we were recently on another platform and definitely had a good time. And I know we'll be no exception today. So we are super stoked to have you here on the podcast and to share and learn more about you. And I know that you are going to bless the Triple E family. So I am super excited to just start digging right in with our discussion.
All right, let's go.
So you know what? I was thinking this even myself, and I'm sure once one person has a question, other people's will. Why don't you enlighten us to what exactly is a behavioral scientist, and how did you get into that field of study? How did that come to be?
Oh, that's good. Now, I did not choose this. It chose me. Growing up, I've always said I was going to be a lawyer. I'm a very argumentative person. Well, not argumentative, but like a debateful person. And so I just knew I was going to be a lawyer. Went to school, found out that's not for me, not so much. But then just the years of advocating for individuals, advocating for students, advocating for leaders, for women like myself who have been diagnosed with illnesses, it kind of just shaped and took form. And so before I knew it, I was studying human behavior and doing a lot of research on trauma, and all of that back end merged itself into the study of behavioral science, behavioral health, and trauma. And long story short, I've spent over 3,000 hours in studying human behavior and trauma, and so that's how I became a social and behavioral scientist.
Okay, so you said a couple of things that your specialty, what I'm hearing, is in your time focus of studies was in trauma, and you mentioned that a couple of times in your bio that I just read to the Triple E family. Can you help share, because somebody may be where you have walked through, as it pertains to grief and trauma from the loss of a loved one as you unfortunately experience, and then that different type of grief that you experience walking through your health challenges? For someone who has, this is a two-part question, so someone who is walking through the grief of loss of a loved one, how would you encourage them and or inspire them, and what are some tips that you found helpful? And the pose that question and frame it as such also for that individual who's in the middle, in the beginning stages of grief for health challenges.
Absolutely. So I'm going to take you through two examples. First example, dealing with the loss of a loved one, and I would say, as someone who as a high achiever, was always doing all the things, right? Being there for everyone. When I lost my nephew in 2017, that was such a close and tragic loss. My nephew was murdered to gun violence. And I was so busy just trying to move forward that I didn't, and at first, I didn't deal with the feelings that I was feeling. I just kept trying to move forward. And so I would say to anyone who is navigating that space of grief after losing a loved one would be, allow yourself time to feel the feelings. Because when you suppress those feelings, they will have a way of coming out of the box at the at a time where it's like not in a not fit, not suitable in the inappropriate space. Like for someone myself, it came out in the workforce. It came out while I was at work. During that time, I was a school leader, and I was supposed to be like leading, like the leading force for the children as well as the staff. And instead of being able to be strong at my work, at my job, I was managing. I was managing from a place of hurt and a place of wounds, which then was met with a lot of resistance because people didn't know what I was going through, because I was shielding that. And that's often something that happens with people when they go through grief. They just try to move past it without allowing that time to sit with the feelings so that they can actually process that grief and process that loss. So that would be the first one, right? And then the next one would be when grieving versions or pieces of yourself, like someone like myself who was diagnosed with this illness, autoimmune disease, late in life. I was diagnosed. I was already in my 40s when I was diagnosed. So I had a whole life before this diagnosis, and I had to go through the different stages of understanding that my capabilities weren't the same, understanding that my limitations had changed, they had increased, but then also I had to go through that deep set of depression of I I'm unable to do a lot of the things that I'm so accustomed to using. So, as I said before, as someone who is a high achiever, as someone who wore multiple hats and and I would like to say was doing it well, I was burning out from the inside out, but I hadn't had a chance to realize it because I was so busy going all the time. And then when I became ill, I had to realize that life would look differently for me. So I needed to grieve that old version of myself, the person who could just get up and go whenever they want to, the person who
Mhm.
could multitask and take on different multiple projects at one time. I was unable to do all those things, and so I had to grieve that. I had to grieve that stage, so that I can begin to understand what
Mhm.
I'm going through now with the diagnosis. So I would say for someone who is in that space, current newly diagnosed, or someone who hasn't even had the opportunity to process their diagnosis that they have had for a long time, give yourself space and grace. Um, but also know that it's okay to grieve parts of yourself that are no longer the same of what you are accustomed to, so that you can open yourself up and be willing to embrace the changes that have come.
Well, I thank you for sharing on that. So, for that woman who is allowed some time to grieve where she was versus pre-diagnosis versus where she is now, what are some helpful tips or resources that you found that got you to the other side of far as who Rev. Dr. Xenia Barnes is now prior to who you were pre-diagnosis?
I would definitely say the biggest tip that I can give you would be to fall in love with yourself all over again. And whether that comes in smaller tips, whether that comes in you doing self inventory of what love sounds like, feels like, and look like to you, whether
Mhm.
that comes with you slowly soft dating yourself, those that time of pamper when it's just you and time, and you getting to just know the things that you like to do now versus the things that you were so accustomed to doing. But
Mhm.
then also my third one, and this is my key one, and this is ties to my framework, which my RISE framework, which would be to make sure that you're brain dumping, make sure that you're journaling down all the thoughts, all the feelings, all the emotions, so that you can always come back to them later, and get a deeper understanding of what you've been going through, why you're feeling the way you feel at different times. But then also that you can identify things that may trigger you or things that may motivate you, because you will know on this journey, um, a lot of things will shift and change, whether it
Mhm.
be relationships, whether it be the way you interact with other individuals, or whether it just be the things that you are willing to tolerate now.
I think that'll definitely help a lot of people as to how to find a path to how do you come to a form of acceptance. I think that was one area that was difficult for me, not wanting to accept that there would be changes needed, that there would be shifts required because you want to continue to operate as you previously did.
Mhm.
So I believe that'll be helpful. And you just mentioned your RISE framework. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to that for a little bit. Can you break down your RISE framework, what that stands for, that acronym RISE, and how it supports both individual healing and systemic change?
Absolutely. So I was very intentional in building out this framework. So I wanted to make sure that it captures, because I'm big on capturing the whole person, and
Mm-hmm.
not just the professional or the personal. And so the RISE framework was intentionally curated to do so. So it's always being able to approach whatever situation that you're in, or whatever you're going through, whether it's professionally or personally, by just acknowledging, so naming. So that R is in recognizing, the first R is in recognizing whatever the situation is and naming it, whether it is workplace challenges, whether it is psychological safe space, whether it is sickness, it's any type of visible or invisible disability, or even if it is breaking up a relationship. Sometimes, like,
Mm-hmm.
you may just be you like if you it may be you might not have any things might be going great at work, things might be going great with your health, but that emotional connection to someone could be something else that's daunting on you. So recognizing whatever it is and then naming it, acknowledging it, and acknowledging that it had an effect on you. It had some type of impact on your life, right? And then once you can do that, you can then move on to the I, which is when now you're going, okay, I understood that this thing happened. Now I am getting to this. I'm getting to the point where I am intentionally creating this path of where I'm going. So
Mhm.
I recognized it. Now I'm going to be intentional about how I interact with any other people. I'm going to be intentional about my impact as well as what I'm allowing to receive. Right.
Right.
And then once you're able to do that, then you want to build on to the S, and that's going to your that's when you get into the structure of it. Now you have you know where you're going with it, but now you need the structure, you need the system of how you're gonna move forward. And in order to do that, I'm very big on systems, right? So I need to know,
Mhm.
like, how I'm gonna plan out my day. What does this day look like? What does it look like if I need to step back? What does it look like? What does it look like me to move forward? What does it look like to even be okay in the space that I am? And that comes along with understanding who your circle is, understanding who's surrounding you, but then also knowing who you can be vulnerable with and who you
Mhm.
can be vulnerable around, right? And those, but that comes with your systems and your structure. Right.
Mhm.
And a lot of times people don't think about the systems and they don't think about the structure because they're like, well, what does that have to do with my personal life? They often think about systems and structures as and work. But without those systems and structures, um, you have a difficult time following through on things, right? Which brings you
Right.
to execution, right? Once you create this flow, this system for you, you're able to execute because now you have identified pain points.
Mhm.
You have identified your triggers, you have identified your areas of growth, but you have also created this roadmap of how you are going to intentionally navigate through these spaces without
Mhm.
causing more harm for yourself. And so that's the rise framework is all about being intentional and not causing more harm to yourself. A lot of the times we think so hard on things, but we don't act on them because we're worried about all the things on the outside or how other people are going to respond to us or not wanting to disappoint other people, but we forget about ourselves. And when you work from the rise framework, it allows you to be intentional about your impact to yourself before you can think about the impact to other people. Because if you're hurt people hurt other
For
people.
people. Yeah, exactly. That part. Mhm.
So the rise framework is all about being able to rise from within in order to get to the rise on the outside.
So for those that are piqued by your RISE framework, where would they go, or where's this resource, and how would they be able to find out more?
They can always go to my website, which is rdbspeaks.com. They can also follow me on social media platforms where I often give out tips about the RISE framework and how you can actually start rising today and start triumphing today. And that's
Mhm.
at rdb underscore speaks. Definitely like and follow so that you can it'll continue to come up on your algorithm. And I'm always on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a
Mhm.
great place to see a lot of my shorts and reels, and just connect. So if you can want to find out more about my workshops or things of that nature, LinkedIn is where you'll be able to find those things.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that we put in all the plugs so that you can make sure you can touch base with Rev. Dr. Xenia Barnes for sure, for sure. So I'm going to shift the conversation just a little bit and also share with you all that Rev. Dr. Xenia Barnes is also going to be participating as our host and one of our powerful keynote speakers for the Beyond the Diagnosis Conference. I'm super, super excited to have her as a partner in this effort. And I would love to be able to shed a little bit more insight on that so you all can know why you need to be in the room and how she is going to impact that room. So, Dr. Xenia, can you explain to us or share with us what can the attendees expect from your keynote message and what type of transformation are you intending on bringing to that space?
Absolutely. So what you can definitely expect is to learn more about what is it like to live beyond the pain of living with a terminal illness, but then also how you turn that pain into power. And so that's what I'm about. I'm about the transformation. I could have let this sickness take over me, and continue to let life live me, but I was able to turn that around. And that's what I want for other people. I want for the attendees to understand that your sickness or whatever your diagnosis is, it doesn't get to dictate where you're going and how you show up. So from my talk, we're going to focus on the power that can come from pain, and then I'm going to bring all the energy. I'm going to bring all my New York energy. Um, I am coming, and so that this going to be a very informative conference, but it's also going to be emotionally freeing and healing, and inspirational, and attendees are going to walk away with tangible things that steps that they can implement that day to start living a better and more fulfilled life, so that they can continue to soar, they can continue to triumph, starting that day.
Yes, that's the thing. We always walk away a lot of these conferences with motivation in the high, and we know that doesn't sustain us. So the fact that you're going to actually give them tangible items that they can implement that day is going to be priceless. And if you don't mind sharing with us, Dr. Xenia, as far as what are some of the chronic illness conditions that you're walking through, because perhaps one woman who is listening to this may identify, may just be starting her journey, and may want to touch base with you to see how she can also walk through this and be as powerful and successful and still flourish the way that you're presently doing.
Absolutely. So I was just speaking to someone today, and I was telling them that I am a melting pot of autoimmune diseases. So I have more than one. I have lupus. I also have Sjogren's, and then I also have pulmonary fibrosis, which is my lungs are hardening, which is why I'm on oxygen. My lungs are hardening. And so right now I only have 34% functionability between both of my lungs. I am currently on the transplant list, well, in the transplant program, because I would have to have a double lung transplant. And so I would say to anyone who's out there, who is battling any form of illness, right? Because those are just the autoimmune diseases. But then I also am borderline. I suffer from borderline bipolar disorder as well. So there's so many different layers to me. But if there's anyone that's out there, and I definitely want to lean in close and say, please give yourself the space and grace to, one, learn all that you can about your diagnosis. Always, always advocate for yourself when you're going to your doctor's appointments, even if that means you looking up the test that they're going to be giving you. Once you get your results, putting your results into AI. That, trust me, it may be scary, but it's good for you to know. Put it into AI and say, hey, I need you to break this down to me so that I can understand exactly what does this mean in layman's terms. And then provide me with at least 3 to 4 questions, follow-up questions that I can ask my physician when I go into my next doctor's appointment. That is something that I definitely recommend that you do, so that you are able to understand on a different level what it is that you're going through, but then also so that you feel confident when you go into this doctor, and now you having this dialogue with them, and it's not them just continuously giving you more diagnosis. Monique, you know what it feels like to go into the doctor. One, feel unheard, unseen, but then feel like they're talking at you and not actually explaining to you what's going on. And someone who is in our position, often when we go to the doctor, we have those moments where it just feel like a Charlie Brown episode, where it's just like wah wah wah. You just feel like the doctor's talking, right? And a lot of times that happens because they're either giving us new information, that something that has arisen from all the medication that they have us on, and we haven't even had a chance to digest all of that, the previous information. Now they're giving us some more, it feels like, bad news. And so going into the doctor with some questions about your results allows you to be in a space where you have the capacity to hear any new information, but you're also breaking down any previous information that you got. So that's a tip I definitely recommend. And if you're someone who's still learning about what it feels like to navigate the world of lupus, to navigate the world of Sjogren's disease, that's when your autoimmune system is constantly attacking itself, or pulmonary fibrosis. Please follow me on social media. When I go to the doctor, I usually do short reels, just documenting my experience, and you may be able to relate. And if you feel like you have any further questions, feel free to DM me. I'm always open in that space to be able to talk a fellow person through any situation that they're going through.
Well, we appreciate that, Dr. Xenia, and I definitely can echo those sentiments. And I also found I would normally bring someone with me, because sometimes we get emotional during those appointments, depending on the news that you hear. And I may not be able to fully grasp or process what I heard. So I bring someone with me, or I request to record the appointment. So when I am back in a rational state, I can go back, listen to it, and if there's follow-up questions, to be able to bring those to that respective doctor. So I would share and add on to that sentiment, as well as some helpful tips that some of our listeners may be able to implement.
Absolutely. And if you're gonna bring somebody, don't do like I did. The first chance, I was like, "Oh, I'm bringing my older sister. She's the oldest. She's gonna be what?" My older sister was not the person to go. She had more anxiety than I did. So know the person that you're taking with you. I love my sister so much, but she is a ball of anxiety, and it's like, I have to remember too that because she's the oldest, I was like her. I was her baby.
Oh, you was a baby.
You know? I was a baby, like I was her baby before her baby. So it was like a mom just hearing, "Oh my goodness, your daughter, your daughter's terminally ill." But I would definitely say be conscious of the person that your proxy, or the person that you bring in with you, and make sure that there's someone who can manage hearing tough news and be able to be strong enough to help you, keep you calm in that sense, and then also debrief with you. That is very, very important. A lot of times we put roles on people and we don't think about how it will impact them, so we want to be mindful of making sure that we're doing the both. We're doing both. We're making sure that we are not causing harm to their mental space, just as well as we want to make sure others are not causing harm to us. So that's just another tip I want to add on, and that's from a personal experience.
Oh, that's a great point. But yeah, I'm glad that you spoke to that, because I was mindful of the energy that I was bringing into the space and their emotional capacity, which you just spoke for me. So I'm glad that you added that on. So this conference is going to be about community. It's going to be about connection. And why is it so important for people to be in the room rather than trying to navigate their healing journeys alone? And that's beyond this conference. That's navigating your healing journey, period. Why do you see that there should be some community and connection versus trying to walk this out by themselves?
I would say because we are now in a time where everyone is doing everything in silos and the community part is missing. And so we're carrying the burden of so much alone, and we really don't have to. Being in this space allows you to put that burden down. Being in this space will allow you to recognize that you're not alone. It will allow you to network and connect with other people, allow you to have medical aha moments, but also allow you to have emotional, spiritual, and just energy flows of ahas. And there you may learn some tips that may work for you that you hadn't even thought about, or you may be able to share a tip for someone else who may need it. So being in the room will allow you to do that, but it will also allow those who are not directly impacted by an autoimmune disease. They may be someone who's indirectly impacted. They may be a caregiver. They may be a sister, aunt, brother, uncle, or a mom. And they'll get to see from a different standpoint the support that they need. A lot of the times we forget about the the bi-directional support that is needed. We're not the only ones who go through it. Those who love us are also impacted because they're seeing a change right before their eyes, which then unfolds and trickles down into their life as well. So being in this room creates a space for both parties to be able to get the support that they need and the information that they need.
Yes, I'm glad that you mentioned that because I definitely want to let our listeners know that this is also open to not just those who are impacted, but your family members, your caretakers, your friends, anyone that may be connected or know of or is interested in learning more how they can best support you should be in this room. And we are catering our itinerary as such. One, going to the whole person as far as wellness coaching. We're going to be having a sound bath, which is beneficial to anyone to help calm your vagus nerve, to help you deregulate far as from stress, how to handle your nervous system. And for those who are dealing with mental health space issues as well will all be a part of this. So we would just love to have you be in the room with us. You can go to my website, www.iammoniquepearson.com, to go ahead and get your ticket and make sure you're in the space to join us and be able to interact with not only myself and Dr. Xenia Barnes, but also the other 7 women who have been a part of this anthology project that will be officially launched there. So I'm super excited. I know Dr. Barnes is super excited to come and be a part of this effort. And as we're bringing this to a close, I want to make sure I give her the platform to let us know about anything that she may have coming down the pipeline that she wants to share with us.
Absolutely. Thank you. I would definitely say I just recently launched my book on Amazon, The Recondition, A Guide for Loving Yourself Through the Trauma. So please go check it out. It has all the things that you need to know about the R.I.S.E framework. It was definitely a great tool for yourself or someone that you love. And then I also have my Beyond the Bar, Healing Beyond the Bars workshop that will be coming up. And so you will be able to stream that on LinkedIn. So yes, definitely please make sure that you're tuning in. Don't forget to head to Amazon and get the book. And I am looking forward to seeing you all in May at the Beyond the Diagnosis Conference.
Wonderful. So that'll be May 16th, 2026. It's a Saturday from 12 to 4. Make sure I'm going to put all the links that Dr. Xenia just mentioned so you can get her books. Make sure that you can register for her upcoming webinar will be in our show notes. So that is going to end our show. I thank you so much for joining us. And if you have not joined us and have not hit that subscription button, stop acting like you a stepchild and join the family and go on and click that and come down and be a part of the Triple E fam. So we can't wait to come back before you with another amazing guest. Until then, continue to elevate, expand, and explore. All right, we'll see you guys soon.